You know what? That is a badass way to start an episode. Because that music is fantastic. Yes! Back in the Paddock F1. Comedian the Cheese. It's an off week. So we head to Montreal in Canada. So where are we? Of course, there's no other place to be on an off week than Greatopia. Where the beer flows like wine, the wine flows like beer, and the cannabis grows as far as the eyes can see. Look at it out there.
Look!
Green and luscious. Take a little whiff. Ah! That air smells fantastic. But we're not taking a walk to the top of the hill. Well, maybe we can. Bet on some other stuff, but... Even in the news special.
The news never ends for Formula One, as we all know.
Of
course, the news cycle is always spewing out something. Some of it's nonsense. Some of it's got legs. Let's go through a bunch of stories that have been going on this week. Actually, I wanted to start, and I know we didn't talk about this pre-show, but, the whole Max Verstappen thing from last week seemed to just blow over, and no further punishment there. So we did promise an update there, and it doesn't seem like there is any update at this point. I don't know if you've heard anything.
Oh, he got his 3 penalty points, so he's 1 point away from suspension.
As we discussed, so so 11 penalty points for him. He's on the thinnest of margins. One more, and he's going to go sit in the no-no chair.
The sin bin.
Chateau Bow Wow.
Yes, Les Chateau de Bow Wow.
So hopefully, at some point, Mad Max is going to come out again. He's going to get that 1 point at some point. So we will see what happens there. But other than that, sir, you got a whole lot.
I think he can lose a couple points. Like late June or something, because they hang on your license for a year or something. So, but he's going to have to be on his best behavior next week. That's for sure.
Definitely can't mess up next week because he's going to miss the race after that if he does anything that's going to give him a point in Montreal for sure. So we'll see what happens there. But let's continue, sir, because I know you are chock full of news over there on your notepad. What do you have for us this week, sir?
Well, let's just go off with the big firecracker. Couple places I've seen are reporting that Christian Horner is possibly out at Red Bull sooner rather than later. Reports say he's been losing power within the team, so therefore he's been losing his pissing match with Marco. And also he has been seen talking a lot with Flavio. Maybe flirting to try and get his next job at Alpine. What is your thoughts on that?
Listen, if you're Christian Horner and you know what the writing on the wall looks like, you've been there long enough to understand your relationship with the team. And just in life, like as always, you have a relationship with a person or a bunch of people for a long time. And you can feel that relationship shifting. So I think Christian Horner started feeling it last year with that whole scandal with him, his infidelity scandal, and that situation going on. A lot of fodder for the tabloids, as we remember, as you might recall last year. So that kind of started turning it. But I think winning is the cure for everything, and they haven't been winning. Third last year in the Constructors. I know we had Max Verstappen winning another Drivers' Championship, but at the same time, this year, it doesn't look like Max Verstappen's going to win another Drivers' Championship, so he could.
I even think he cost himself that at Spain, to be honest.
Probably, and he's probably going to get suspended for a race because he's going to do something stupid. So now he really put himself in a situation where it was a slim chance for him to win, and now it's a probably very slim chance for him to take home a Drivers' Championship this year. But most of all, the management of the number 2 driver, whether Christian Horner's fault, whether the driver situation, whether it's a mechanical issue with that car, whether Max Verstappen is just the all-time greatest, if not like, Mount Rushmore of drivers, as we would say, I'm sure it's a little bit of everything, but, bottom line is winning cures everything. And without winning, you're not going to win a Drivers' Championship this year, most likely. It could. You're definitely not going to win the Constructors. You got no chance at the Constructors. Throw that out the window.
No.
When's the last time we said that about Red
No.
Bull in June? You could have said it in May. McLaren's, 200 points up already in the Constructors?
That's something, yeah.
Something ridiculous. So, that's kind of already out the window unless there's a major, massive turnaround, and you got to start with the number 2 driver with Red Bull showing up every week, and it has not been happening. So with all those factors in line, think about your own job, think about your own workplace. When things are going south and sour, when you were once the king of the world and now you're not. The expectations are very high for Christian Horner, and moving on might be the best thing for him. And it's been a long time. It's really hard for any sport to be at one place for over a decade, especially in a high-profile
He's been
position.
at Red Bull since Red Bull became Red Bull.
So it's
like
forever.
He's been at Red Bull for a long time. Long time. I'm interested to see how it goes, but it definitely looks like he will not be at Red Bull for that much longer. Definitely. There's been, last week there was the Ferrari rumor. Now you got the Alpine rumor. I mean, that stuff not usually kicking up like that fast unless there's people saying things in the background. I mean, people aren't really going to Red Bull right now. They're leaving Red Bull.
And they've been for the last 2 years.
Yeah, so, I mean, something is also, there's been a lot of internal strife that, we've definitely reported on this program as well, so.
We had an episode, I think, just about 12 months ago.
Years now.
We had an episode about 12 months ago.
Years.
Like I said, something's rotten at Red Bull. And I think we were spot on. One of our best episodes we ever put out there as far as listenership. And there was a reason for that one because it was pretty spot on. Something's still rotten at Red Bull, and we'll see if it shakes out over the next few weeks here, if not the next few months. But I think by the break, I think we'll know something about Christian Horner and Red Bull's future, and it doesn't look good for the Red Bull team. They probably need a hard reset for the whole team.
Yeah, that's fair.
Probably.
That's fair.
And that might start with Christian Horner leaving and maybe Max Verstappen leaving as well. But only time will tell. Sir, what else do you have on that news blotter of yours?
Where are we going to go next? I think we'll end with that one. So, Cadillac. It's been the news this week. Possibilities of their top drivers on the top of their list to fill their 2 seats for next season. Those names are, of course, as we have reported before, Sergio Perez. Valtteri Bottas is on the list. Zhou and Drogovic are the 4 drivers on the top of their list according to their future team principal. What's your thoughts on that list?
You're all over the place with that list. Of course, you got some veteran drivers. You got some. I mean, Drogovic, he did race in F1, but I think he'd be considered a rookie.
Well, he's the reserve driver for Aston Martin, so.
Yeah, but how many races has he raced in Formula One at this point? Not a ton. So none. Has he never raced in Formula One?
I don't believe so.
I thought he had a couple races. Maybe it was qualifying. I don't remember. I thought Drogovic raced a race or two. Maybe not.
Might have been
anyway, regardless,
I don't believe so.
Maybe he's in practice. But regardless, yeah. So that's a rookie right there. You got veterans. You can go in any direction because Cadillac probably believes, and I think everyone believes, that this is just a last place team. They're going to have a lot of February and March banter and news, and they're going to have good PR at that point, and then you're just not going to hear about them again. Just like last season, going into the season, we couldn't stop talking about stake F1 and that whole nonsense and the gambling links and ties and all that stuff going on, and now who cares? Because as soon as the season started, nobody cares. This is just preseason fodder that we're setting up for at this point for the 2026 season. And unless Cadillac shows up, it's not really going to matter. Can we see a resurgence of Sergio Perez? That would be interesting. Who else did you have on that list?
Bottas, Joe, and Drogovic.
Botas is interesting. He definitely wasn't terrible, and Joe definitely is very marketable in the Asian market, of course, and so puts them at least in a financial situation. I think if I was looking at it financially, and we're looking at a team that's going to be probably back of the pack, if Cadillac feels they're going to be that way, really won't really truly know until testing, but I think a Perez-Joe combination would be the most likely, just based on financials and sponsorship possibilities.
Yeah.
That's probably where you would go. Bottas doesn't, the Finnish market isn't quite as strong as the Chinese or Mexican market. No offense to those in the Northern European car. Our friends in Northern Europe, no offense to them. But, yeah, that's where I'm going to leave that one.
I mean, that's fair. I still think somebody from IndyCar is still in play, too, to be honest. Like a Colin Herta, Alex Palou, or Paddle Award. I think one of those three could definitely be, or definitely probably on that list as well. Especially since the team still has, the Andretti ties and things like that too. So,
yeah, maybe 2027, maybe after they put some finances on the board. I mean, remember, it was $500 million just to enter into this, which probably was, like I had said many times, probably a discount price for only $500 million to just have the rights to join in, not including the capital it takes to start the team from scratch. So there's a lot of money that was spent there, and they're going to want to recoup that money quickly. So I think they're going to go with a very safe lineup as far as marketability goes. You have two of the top, as far as population goes, countries in the world with Mexico and China. And I think that's what you go with. And I think you have two guys who have names at least, and I think that's what you go with. So I'm putting my money on that combo. You would love to see a couple IndyCar drivers up there as well, but you just don't have the same
I'd like
bravado.
to see an American on an American team. Like, that's just, personally, I think that would be a very good way to market it as well, if you have an American on the American team. So
yeah, you can wish in one hand and crap in the other there.
And let's see which one fills up
rock.
first. Absolutely. But, Perez or Bottas, I think either one on the team is pretty much a guarantee, because you want a veteran driver to help develop the car.
You're going to have to, because they'll give you the best feedback. Absolutely.
So I think one of those two is definitely a very good choice, just for that aspect, to develop the car. I agree with you on Joe too, just because he brings cash, baby. Straight.
Yeah, and both Perez and Joe will give you great feedback on the car and the feel of the car, and give you the marketability to get some cash in, and hopefully, try. This is a 20-year investment for Cadillac. This is not we're going to turn around and make cash overnight here. This is a long-term investment for Cadillac, so they're going to try to play their position as hard as possible.
I think it's I forget when they're actually going to use their own home-produced power plant. I think I forget what year they're set to do that.
This is a long-term investment. Yeah, this is not an overnight, quick buck thing here with Cadillac. No. So I think we all need to understand that this is a multi-billion-dollar investment over the next 20 years, and that's how they're going to recoup their money. And that's all I got to say about that. What else you got, sir?
Oh, this is a long one, so just bear with me for a second here as well.
All right.
Lance Stroll, of course, missed the race last week because possibly, I'm not saying this is what happened, but apparently punched the wall after freaking out after being eliminated from qualifying early.
Rumor has it.
There was, team management or personnel has said that, things that trying to cover that up a little bit, it seemed. But it seems like he just freaked out. He punched the wall, and that's why he had wrist issues. Possibly could also not be able to race at Canada this coming week. But check this out to add on top. Aston Martin's two top backup drivers, Felipe Drogovic and Stoffel Vandoorne, will not be available since they are to race at Le Mans next week as well.
Like per plus, you gave me a 2-1 here. Yeah, it's a double story. That's a big whopper. Let's address the former here, which is Lance Stroll punching a wall, or apparently rumor has it, because that would make a lot of sense based on his injury and his situation. Listen, the man misses Q2 like the desert misses the rain. He cannot get out of the bag, and putting Lance Stroll in a bad car is just, when you had him in a decent car, it was one thing, but putting him in a bad car this season is just an absolute disaster. And I don't know if Fernando Alonso has slipped that much where his skill set is just matching Lance Stroll's poor skill. It's hard to tell right now with Fernando Alonso. And again, like I had mentioned earlier,
the car is just bad. That's number one.
Is the car bad, or are the drivers bad, or is it a combination of both? Or is that what we're seeing? We're seeing an aging Fernando
think the teams
Alonso.
even said the car's bad. So I think the teams even said the car's bad. So
well, you have again. I don't know.
Adrian Newey's not working on that car. He's working on next year's car. Pretty much.
Next year's car.
But apparently, I think he did show up at Monaco, and apparently the week before he did give them an idea that he thought of during his lunch break. Apparently. Working on the 26 car
break brilliance. Why would it matter where he
to make a couple to start changing things and go in a different direction to help this? So I don't know if that's really going to do a lot, but the car is just bad. Let's just straight up bad. So
what was Newey eating at this lunch?
I don't know.
The Adrian Newey genius diet is what you got to get down on right now. Excuse me.
But, I mean, the car's just bad. And
as far as backup drivers go and not having
Lance Stroll also doesn't always get out-qualified anyway, so
right
I don't think he should think that's anything new.
How about you don't cut me off there? So as far as backup drivers go, having both your backup drivers at Le Mans, it definitely makes it a tough situation. What do you choose, though? Do you choose Le Mans, or do you choose F1, or are you locked into Le Mans? Can't you have race Le Mans this weekend to not interfere with Formula One if you're going to be, potentially having drivers cross over and having not a double race weekend with two pretty watchable races for race fans as far as Le Mans and Montreal go? We can criticize the Montreal track as much as you want, and the race itself, but these are popular events and they're going on simultaneously, so that does make it difficult right off the bat. And then it makes no sense. It makes no sense. But you're in a tough situation. Do you just race one car and just say F it? It doesn't matter anyway. We got like 2 points on the season. No, we don't. Fernando has 2 points. I don't know what Stroll's got. Maybe 7. But they're way back in the pack.
He finished like 6th or something, didn't he? So 1 race.
1 point, yeah. So they got like 10, 12 points. I don't even know. I don't have it up on the screen here. But not good at all for the team at all this season. And I don't know. They might have one car on track. That would be interesting.
They'll find somebody. They'll make you could call Botas or something. I mean, there's drivers there.
Pick up the bat phone and make a call. Somebody who's driving a truck right now, could be out there on track. It could be a movie. It could be a movie situation. Somebody
on the phone for a weekend.
Somebody who had no idea they're going to drive. What if that person puts up points at all? That would be quite an interesting situation heading to Montreal. So I guess we'll see. We'll have to wait and see what happens this coming weekend. What else do you have, sir?
I do. Well, let me piggyback off of something. Go ahead. I do agree with you on the having both races at the same weekend because, both races are run by the FIA.
Double dipping.
So
doesn't make sense.
No, it definitely does not make any sense whatsoever. So, but it is quite. I think it's also freaking hilarious that Aston Martin's having a pretty crap season, and then this happens because their owner's son has a temper tantrum after quali and punches the wall.
All right, what else you got here?
Final one. Also with Aston Martin as well. Russell to Aston Martin rumors have now begun since the silly season is on. Apparently earlier than usual.
I don't know. Last year's silly season started before the 2024 season even started.
Yeah. Very true.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I have no idea. I have no idea where George Russell's going to go. Mercedes situation definitely seems to be getting. It started getting better, and then it definitely took a step backwards in this last three races here in this three leg. We had all those mechanical issues for Merck. We'll see what happens between now. I would say between now and the break is going to be critical. What are the next, I think, 5 races going to look like between now and that late summer break? And can you put enough points on the board to show that this team, Mercedes team, is serious for the next 5 years? George Russell's got to make a decision what his where he's going to spend the prime of his career. And that's like the next 5 seasons coming up here, most likely. Right? I know we have these Fernando Alonso's and these Lewis Hamiltons that are racing in their 40s, but that's not the case for most drivers. And, 25 to 30 is going to be for most better drivers, your best years, most likely, right? So where do you want to spend those best years? And is it going to be Mercedes? Likely. It could be likely he stays in Mercedes, but I think the next 5 races are going to be really critical. And Toto Wolff knows that, and that's why he was pissed as hell after Spain. If anyone saw post-race interviews with him, he was pretty steamed up. And I think he understands that George Russell could leave this team. And George Russell's been pretty good when mechanically the car's been on par. Your thoughts?
Well, Toto Wolff has been, definitely trying to get Max Verstappen. So if he can pull that deal off, and George Russell's contract is up at the end of the season. So if he can pull off a Max Verstappen move, he's doing that, and he's going to bring Verstappen to Mercedes, and Russell's going to be out and need a job. So going to Aston Martin is a possibility. I'm sure it's looking like Fernando's possibly, little rumors definitely started that he could be retiring. So Russell to Aston Martin makes sense as well. But I've also, the Russell the Red Bull rumor has also been out there as well. So Russell could be on the move. That's for sure. And if Toto Wolff can get his dream of getting Max Verstappen, then he's definitely going to be on the move. Max does have an out. He has an out clause in the contract if the team doesn't finish.
We'll
in a
see
certain
about
spot
what are the odds.
something.
What are the odds of Max Verstappen's going to Mercedes? I don't see it highly likely at this point. We'll see what happens as Red Bull. I think the break is going to be really, really interesting this season, and I think that's just where we're at. We're gonna have to wait for the next 5. I think it's 5 races between now and the break, and a lot has to go right for a lot of teams. Red Bull could fall apart. The Red Bull second driver can just start showing up and scoring points finally and start getting top 6s. Mercedes can go out and have a couple more podiums, or they can score minimal points because they're going to have a driver out every single week because of all these mechanical issues. There's so much up in the air. Is Ferrari going to maintain the pace they've had and continue to score points in the pace they have over the last 3 races? So many questions. I think the one question we don't have is McLaren going to keep winning? And that's one question we don't have right now, because it looks like McLaren's going to keep winning, and that puts every other team, because the top end podium is going to be just owned, whether 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 1 and 3, any of those combinations is going to be pretty much 90% of the races for the rest of the season. So that puts every other team at a major disadvantage. The Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull combination of those 4 teams at a major disadvantage. And Williams has been coming up. they've been looking better and better for sure as well. So they could sneak out and through this chaos, and maybe they could put up a top 4, 5, depending on how that looks. So very, very interesting, and I think very telling over the next couple races here. And let the rubber hit the road, sir, because that's the only way we're going to find out who's going to have a job, where people are going. That's it. If Mercedes makes a big resurgence, if George Russell wins 2 races between now and the break, or it puts up a podium and a win, that could be a different story.
Yeah.
If Max Verstappen loses his freaking mind and puts himself in another situation, he could be less and less desirable. He might decide, listen, I'm done with F1. We could have a major change of the guard. He's got enough money to last himself the rest of his life. He could just do Heineken Zero commercials for the next 20 years and be fine, So where's he going to be at as far as Max Verstappen is concerned? So we could see a major changing of the guard. We could see a Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso all leaving the sport in the next 6 to 24 months. And that's a major changing of the guard completely, especially with 11 teams coming in and needing 22 drivers and losing 3 most popular drivers over the next 24 months. That's very interesting, sir. Very interesting. And those are my thoughts on that. Any final thoughts before we shut it down for the week here?
That
See
is
you all
all
in
I got
Montreal.
for you.
That is a lot of
all I
chock
got.
full of in the news. Listen, we want to thank everybody who listened from all around the world. I don't have this week's stats pulled up in front of me, but we know it's just every single. I think that this past week after Spain has been our second most listened to week we've ever had. So we really, really appreciate everyone's support. Everyone's listening. Every listener means so much. We absolutely. So thank you all so much. It really, from where we started, sir, to where we are now, it has been a long journey, and hopefully this journey keeps going up and up the mountain until we reach the top, and we're taking you all with us. So we appreciate it. Final thoughts, sir.
We'll see you next week. Montreal, baby. Let's hit that casino. Let's get some poutine.
And as always,
Stay medicated, my friends.
peace.